but we could be alone. Between city lights, we don't have to hide. I wanna go, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? I can't understand why we can't hold hands, but they don't know what we have is real love. Aren't you sick and tired of having to hide? I know a place, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow?
Okay, I did it. Okay, I did it. I was too into the dancing, and I wasn't paying attention to the song, and then the song ended. You gotta really get that timing right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Livestream. It is Monday night. I got the window open. You hear that? Oh, doesn't that sound nice? Oh yeah. Yep, it's windows open time here in Tennessee. It is open your windows, let the cool night air come in, have a fan blowing, hear the crickets while you sleep. Well, you're going to hear the crickets during this live stream because it's so I'm doing it. I spend all day in here. Actually, I didn't spend all day in here, but that's beside the point. That's like one of my true joys in life is this like 2 weeks where it's the weather's nice enough to open the windows. So enjoy. For those of you who are afeared of a hurricane coming to kill you, maybe don't have your windows open. Maybe close your windows. Maybe don't be there to close your windows or open them. Maybe be somewhere else. I don't know. How's it going? What? Why? Do you guys hate crickets that much? What happened here? Whoa. Nah, fucking forget it. We're leaving. Why? Why did you leave? What do you have against crickets? The hurricane took them. Welcome to the live stream. That's so sad. Oh, there we go. Okay, it's all good. It's all good. We're fine now. Okay, it was just a fluke. Welcome to the live stream. Here's what's going on. We're going to be taking your questions. Rodolphe Lacamet, good to see you, my friend. Good to see you. We're going to be taking your questions here in the chat. It's going to be a Monday nights are always a little quieter than Sunday afternoons. It's going to be a little more personal, a little more one-on-one. It's going to be after hours. Hey, why? No, it won't be personal. I promise. I think it's just something they do today. We're going to be taking your questions here in the chat. I'm going to be taking your super chats. If you want to make sure I hit your question, hit the $ right down here and leave a super chat. And, of course, you could always just become a patron and join my Discord server over here on the right side of the screen. Hello, patrons. I don't know if you can tell, but this was right after I decided to go completely bald. So I had been trimming my head with like a clipper and like a 1/8 inch guard. And I was just like, you know what? Just let's go all the way. Let's get the razor out and let's shave. And I didn't think about the fact that we were shooting for Flow State that weekend. I wouldn't have occurred to me, I think, that the first time you actually shave your head, your skin is all a different color from being covered with hair. Like, I don't have that problem now. I have a nice tan on my head. So in the Flow State film, I think this chapter actually got cut from the final cut because they were like, you know what? Maybe your mom isn't interested in seeing me build a quadcopter. I think, but in the Flow State film, my whole head is a different color than the rest of my face. So, also, I don't know why it looks like I have kind of blonde tips on my beard. Meat City. Yeah, I was noticing the color. My beard looks brown here when it just clearly isn't. So I don't know what's going on there. Probably the color grade. I don't know. Now I've got that distinguished gray. Anyway. I'm grayer and grayer. What's happening? I'm 47 years young. That's not what you're here for. We're going to talk about FPV. I'm going to take your questions. Let's do that. Let's take your questions. Did you hear that Pavel Spikowski's YouTube channel got shut down? Is that true? Someone told me that. So Pavel Spikowski's YouTube channel got hacked recently. It got hacked recently. And oh my God. Wow. So it got hacked. It was streaming crypto scam bullshit. If you watch Quarter Digital, he got hacked the same way. Maybe Quarter Crew. I don't remember which of their channels. One of Quarter Digital's channels got hacked the same way and was streaming the same scam. He recovered his channel, but then someone told me that YouTube took him down, which is a thing. I mean, if you're streaming crypto scam, your channel is going to get reported a bunch of times, and then it gets shut down. I don't see it. I see Pavel Spikowski After Hours, which is his After Hours channel. Pavel, you can't use the same. Pavel, listen. I know why you're making this decision, but you can't just use the same cutout of you making an expression in all of your thumbnails. Look, I can see that this one is the same as that one. It's distracting. You got to make an original thumbnail for every video. It's so important to your success. I mean, this is his After Hours channel. I didn't even know he had this. This is Pavel Spikowski, I think is his personal. No, there's like literally one subscriber and one viewer. Holy shit. Did his main channel get nixed? Wow. That's something. That's really too bad. Hang on. Oh wow, somebody just gave me this link, T418L in the Discord. Okay, well, I hope he can get it sorted out with YouTube. That sucks. So this happened to Corridor Digital. I don't know if anybody here watches them. I'm sure somebody do. They're pretty popular. But it happened to them. They have millions of subscribers and had enough sort of pull with YouTube to get YouTube to fix it for them. Corridor Digital. I think they talked about the hack on their second channel. This is their main channel, though. I don't really even watch their main channel, to be honest. I watch their Corridor Crew, their vlog channel, and they talked about being hacked there. It's the exact same hack that hit Pavel Spikowski, as far as I can tell. Yeah, here, channel was terminated. We got hacked. So you can find out more about the hack there. It seems like the exact same thing that happened. I hope he's able to get his channel back. Like, I am not actually mad at YouTube for killing it. Don't take that the wrong way. Bardwell's glad Pavel got hacked. No. Like, if your channel gets hacked and it's streaming crypto scam information, then it's reasonable for YouTube to take it down because you're no longer in control of it. I just hope that he's able to get it back. I hope he's able to get it because they didn't like just wipe it. They could just push a button and put it back. Luis Hurtado, others are saying he had two-factor authentication for his channel. So two-factor, there is an attack that bypasses two-factor authentication. It's called they steal your session key, is what they say. And basically, you know how if you go to YouTube and you're logged into YouTube and you bring up the window, you don't have to log in again. YouTube remembers, your browser remembers that you're logged in right now, okay? And it doesn't ask you to log in again. There is an exploit, and I don't know the exact way that the vulnerability works, but there's an exploit where hackers can get your session key, and then it looks like you're logged into their browser, even though your IP address is different and so forth. So one way that has been done in the past is that the hacker will pretend to be a sponsor of your channel. They'll say, I want to pay you ridiculous sums of money to promote my VPN or my new mobile game. And you'll say, okay. And then they'll say, okay, look, here, I'm going to send you an installer so you can install it. Or they're going to say, we're going to send you this performance test so that it'll check the performance of your computer and make sure you're going to work okay. And it's actually an executable that steals your session key. Well, so, yeah, obviously, if you run random executables that people on the internet send you, then that's a security risk. I think Pavel is smarter than that, though. I mean, of course, smart people also make dumb mistakes. So, I mean, I'm not saying he has said, no, I don't do that. So I would be extremely curious to know how they got his session key. But the thing is, having two-factor on does not prevent you from that attack. And I don't know, man. I don't know what the workaround is or how it happened, but it's a shame. I hope his channel gets restored. I really do. I really would like to know how it got done so I can prevent it from happening to me, to tell you the truth. Anyway, there you go. Pavel Spikowski's whole channel is down. Pacific Northwest Pilots wants to know, have you heard of Funk FPV? He posted FPV videos up to a year ago, then gained a good following, switching to more of a comedy channel. No, I don't. I am not familiar with that. You think I should switch to a comedy channel? Ethan W., what are the SA and SW pads on my VTX? Well, SA is clearly smart audio. And SW, I don't know. Ethan W., what VTX is it? Tell me what VTX it is. I'll look it up. Can we look at can we look at something? Can we look at something real quick? No music. Unfortunately, I can't show you music. Phoenix FPV. Phoenix FPV. I know that I'm like not the first person in the world to say that this guy is preposterous. He posted this video 5 days ago, and I have to take a minute and show it to you because somehow some of you might not have seen it. It is mind-boggling. I'm not going to play the music on the off chance that it's copyrighted. You can go to Phoenix FPV's channel if you want to see it. It's just music. It's not, I don't think there's motor noise, so you're not missing anything. He is unbelievably good. Just take a minute and watch some of this. Okay, that's fine. I could do that. I couldn't do this. Wait a minute. How about this? Did you... I mean, just stop. Right there. Stop right there. One of those would challenge me. Watch. He's going to do a kind of a... I guess it's like a power loop to half Maddie. Or a power loop rewind. I don't know what you want to call it. He sets it up like he's going to do a power loop. He half Maddie's back through. And then he's like, you know what? I think I'm going to do that again. Yeah, okay. Whoa, just wait. There's more. Nice save there. So I feel like that was a save. I mean, I don't know. He's got a lot of control, so maybe it was intentional. But if it was a save, it was brilliant. It looked so smooth and in control. He comes back. I think here he's... If it were me, I'd be trying to power loop into that hole, and I would have come up short right here. But he saves it. Beautiful. Back through with a Maddie. Maybe that was on purpose to set the Maddie up. I don't know. All right. So that felt like a little bit of a filler move, but it was just beautiful. So here, like, he's like, okay, what am I going to do? I got nothing to do. So I'll just do this little vanny flip, vanny roll, if you will. And then come under here. Sure, why not? And then I'll go over here. Oh, reach for it. Got it. Okay, back in again. What? No! Stop! And then, oh my God. So he sets it up like he's going for the power loop into the hole again. But there's this whole other gap here that you never saw. Where's the, look how thin this gap is. Look how thin the line is he's hitting here. Look how thin it is. And he comes out here, and then instead of just running for freedom, like if it was me, I'd be like, I cannot believe I hit that. And I'd be like, let's just get out of here and call it a day. He's going to do a little look back under the roof. Sure, why not? Jesus Christ. Oh, how about a half yaw spin into a Maddie? Into this hole. Yup. Hold on. Watch it. Half yaw spin. Okay, here we go. Up over the edge. Half yaw spin. Into the Maddie. Into the hole. Back out. Shut up. FPV is done forever. That was it. That was the move. Let's watch it again. Because I don't know. That's it. Just quit. Everybody else just quit. That move just killed FPV forever. No one has ever done anything that cool in the history of FPV, and probably someone will do something cooler eventually because that's just how it is. But that's unreal. Unreal. The number of ways to fail that trick. And he hit it. Unreal. Unreal. Let's just do that. Oh, okay. Beautiful. 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 Oh. Beautiful. Beautiful. This is why no one... it's crazy. This is crazy good. Back in? Okay. Sure, we'll drop down there. It's all good. I mean, I'd say I'd love to fly that. Nice transition, by the way. Smooth transition, matching the quad's motion. I'd love to fly this spot too, but I wouldn't do anything half this cool. Jiminy Christmas. Jiminy Christmas. So good. So good. Let's go in here. Where are you? Where am I? What am I doing? Oh, he got a little stuck there. Let's do it again. Oh, shut up! Shut up! Did you see that? This first time he's like, wait a minute, I didn't quite get it. He's in. He's down this hole. Where did the hole come from? Where did the gap come from? Oh, so good. So good. So I just was so blown away with this flight that I thought I would show it on the live stream because some of you have already seen it. Very clean. Clean. He's got his yaw spins clean. How he gets that yaw spin going over, that's so clean. Anyway, this is Phoenix FPV, F-E-N-I-X. I'll put a link to his channel. I got to tell you what. Vanover did what he called the best freestyle flight ever, and he totally earned that name, no doubt. But my goodness, this video from Phoenix FPV certainly gives Vanover a run for his money in terms of just raw technical skill. Insane. Insane. Anyway. Oh, that explains it. Abraham says Phoenix is actually 14 years old. Okay, that explains why he's so good. Freaking 14-year-olds. How dare they? Okay. He's from Spain. Yeah, I thought so. We're going to get our super chats in just a second. Yeah, Sebi D FPV, 100%. What makes Vanover's is so extraordinary is that Vanover's was a one-pack. Whereas Phoenix is, I mean, if you gave Vanover all day at this location, he would put up something just as awesome as this. I feel confident. I mean, that's what makes Vanover's so extraordinary. The technical level of Phoenix's tricks, I mean, it's just extraordinary. So Phoenix has 7.3K subs, probably deserves a lot more. It's crazy. So there was a question I saw go by before we get to the super chats in just a second. John A, I like your question, John. John asks, can you explain how to find a good preset that works? I fried my ESC with the last one because I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm going to sort of reinterpret your question, John, as how do I know if my preset is about to fry my motors? The safest thing to do, of course, is to fly the default PIDs and filters. And to be honest, Betaflight's default PIDs and filters are probably the best of any Betaflight default so far. They're quite good. And as a beginner who maybe is just learning about tuning, the Betaflight default PIDs certainly are not going to hold you back, I think. What you want to look for when trying a more aggressive tune, like if you try the Sugar K preset in Betaflight, that's a more aggressive tune. What you want to do is you want to take off and hover, okay? And listen to the motors. Do the motors sound smooth or do they sound kind of rough and maybe warbly? Kind of like a... or do they just sound like... That's good. Smooth is good. Rough or warbly is indicative of a problem. If the motors are hot, so you're going to start with like a hover test. If the motors sound smooth, that's probably good. If they don't sound smooth, feel the motors. They feel hot. If they feel hot, that could be indicative of a problem. What you want to do is slowly work up the aggressiveness of the flying and look for signs that the tune is not going to be right for you. Hot motors, too hot to comfortably touch. Like if they're warm, or if you're like, that's a little hot, that's probably okay. If you pinch the motor and you're like, ow, ooh, no, I don't like that. That's bad. You're going to fry your motors. While you're flying, while you're flying, you get little tick, 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 that's a sure sign that something isn't right. Like little ticks on the yaw axis. If you hear the motors kind of going as you're flying, as you hit the throttle, or if you go through a split S, and while you're in that reverse prop wash scenario, the motors kind of go, not just normal prop wash, which is kind of like just like, but like an actual kind of overtone trilling. That's a sign that something's bad. But hot motors are really the thing that you want to pay attention to. So don't just slap a tune on your quad and then go rip 3 packs in a row and then smoke a motor. Hover. Fly at like 30 seconds, a minute. Pay attention to those signs that the motors might not be happy, and then work up to it. Okay. Now, Aber the Ham has an interesting statement. Not to be a cliche broken record, but as much as I love what Vanny's doing, and as mind-blowing as the Phoenix video was, when it comes to technical freestyle, steel is still steel. It's true. Nobody can... steel is 1,000% the best at what steel does. And nobody else does what steel does quite the same. I've never seen steel do a half yaw spin over an obstacle. That's just not his trick. It reminds me of, like, you might have a blues guitarist who is an amazing blues guitarist, and then you might have another, more technical young guitarist who's got like a bunch of tapping and shit that he can do, and the blues guitarist just doesn't tap. That's just not his style. Steel is a master of his aircraft. That being said, there are tricks that steel doesn't seem to like to do or want to do. Yeah. So I think it's hard to call somebody sort of the king of technicality if they have any sort of gaps in their technique. Anyway. Let's get to Super Chats. Yeah, exactly. Evil Genius, I 100% agree with you. Steel is a see and respond pilot. Steel he feels extremely improvisational in that he just goes wherever he wants to go. If you take Steel to a brand new location, I think that on his first pack, he will find 17 gaps that you didn't even know were there, hit all of them, right? And 4 or 5 minutes later, he'll come back and land and be like, "This is a good spot." Whereas, like, I would take off and I don't even know why I'm comparing myself to him, but, like, I'd be looking for, maybe I'll hit this gap after I practice 15 times. And Steel just goes. He just go. Never slows down, never stops. Just hits it all and makes it flow, and it's amazing. Let's get Super Chats. Let's read the Super Chats. Here comes the drone. Thank you for a $5 Super Chat. I know you're a big Cinewhoop guy. Blunty or point nose props for Cinewhoops that don't have ducts. So here comes the drone. My opinion is that the bullnose props that originally came on Cinewhoops, the intent, and this is a fact, Andy Shen has talked about this, the intent was that the prop would be sort of dug into a channel in the TPU duct. And when you have a duct and the prop is extremely close to the duct, you get an increase in efficiency. That has basically gone away. All Cinewhoop props nowadays there's too much of a gap between the duct and the prop tip to get a gain in efficiency. And that's, I think, why we've seen a lot of Cinewhoops moving away from great big ducts towards just prop guards, because the ducts weren't really acting like ducts. They were just great big honking prop guards. Well, at that point, why not just make them little prop guards? I do still think there's an advantage to the bullnose props, though, because Cinewhoops are often heavy for the amount of thrust that they're making. They're often carrying a lot of weight for their size. And normally what you do if you had a quad that was heavy is you would go up to the next larger size in prop, right? You want to carry more payload, you have a larger prop. It makes more thrust, it's more efficient. But Cinewhoops, you don't have the option. I mean, of course, you could just build a bigger Cinewhoop. These days, people are building quote-unquote Cinewhoops with 4 and 5 inch props. I don't think they're Cinewhoops at that point, but that's a semantic distinction. Typically, you'd have a Cinewhoop, and it would be sort of stuck at the 3-inch size, because that's how big your quad was, and you didn't want a bigger quad, because it's got to be small and fly indoors. So you need to make the most amount of thrust that you can get to carry this heavy GoPro on these little 3-inch props. And bullnose props, although they are less efficient, I think that they do make more thrust. So even if your Cinewhoop has no ducts or no prop guards, I think there's still a benefit for using the bullnose props. I think there's a reason you see people using them. Eddie Lancaster, thank you for a $10 super chat. Eddie says, hey, I recently purchased your DIY kit on FPV. Thank you, Eddie. Appreciate that. Hope it's working out well for you. Now let's read the rest of Eddie's question, where I'm sure he compliments it and doesn't have any problems with it whatsoever. I had a minor crash, and one of the screws came out that was in the side of the camera. Where can I purchase extra screws for the camera? Oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Eddie... hang on. Eddie, what you need is an M2 screw. And what I'm going to suggest you do is just buy an M2 screw assortment. Now, I'm looking at Amazon. You can look many places. This one is M2 by 6, 8, 10, 12, 16, and 20 millimeter. I like the sound of that. That looks pretty good to me. And that's probably, well, I take it back. So I like the cap head screws, not the button head screws. Especially in the M2 size, I like the cap head. So I would go back and try to find a cap head. Let's see. M2 by 468, blah, blah, blah. That seems about right. Yes. So Eddie, I would buy this. And probably what you're going to want is the M2 by 4 millimeter. But it depends on the thickness of the carbon and so forth. So you may want, it's just good to have spares. Just use the smallest size you can and make sure that it's not too long and sort of digging into the camera and breaking the board inside the camera. Okay? Okay. Deuce FPV, thank you for a $5 super chat. Deuce did not leave a question. Let me just check and see if he's asked a question separately. Excuse me. No, it doesn't seem that he did. Thank you for a donation, Deuce. Quad City Bay Area, thank you for a $5 super chat. How does Fat Shark make a profit if they only make the goggle shell and not the electronics? Quad City Bay Area, I don't know the details of Fat Shark's arrangement, but typically the way that something like that was done is that they would charge a licensing fee that would give them a cut of every goggle sold. Now, theoretically, that kind of work could have been done under contract, where someone who knows about parts design designs it and does it on a contract basis, takes a single flat fee, and then walks away. That's not the relationship that Fat Shark and Walksnail seem to have. They have an ongoing relationship, and I doubt that Walksnail would have put up, I don't know how much I don't know how much money, but it would have been, if you're Fat Shark and you were theoretically going to do that work on a contingency basis, I think you would charge a lot of money. So my guess is that Fat Shark negotiated with Walksnail that in exchange for designing the case, that they would get a certain percentage or a certain amount of money per goggle sold. Bear in mind also that Fat Shark sells the goggles. But Fat Shark is probably not the primary seller of the goggles. It could go the other way, frankly. I mean, it could go the other way. It could be that Fat Shark builds the goggles and Fat Shark pays Walksnail some amount of money for the board. I think that's actually more plausible. Well, Walksnail sells the goggles and Fat Shark sells the goggles. So normally I would say that whoever manufactures the final product probably pays a licensing fee to whoever provides components for the final product. But in this case, it kind of goes both ways. Walksnail has said that Fat Shark manufactures the Walksnail goggles in their factory. Fat Shark has denied that. I don't know who to believe. If I had to bet, just like if you're just like, I'll give you $1 million if you guess right. If I had to bet, I would say that Fat Shark manufactures both the Walksnail and the Fat Shark goggles, and that Fat Shark receives the boards from Walksnail and pays Walksnail some kind of licensing fee per goggle sold. That's my guess. Except maybe Fat Shark doesn't pay Walksnail the licensing fee. How would that work for the goggle? But Walksnail would have to pay Fat Shark for the Walksnail goggles. Maybe that's a normal manufacturer-distributor relationship, though. I don't know. Anyway. Gadget RC, good question in the Discord. I stripped a screwdriver. How do you buy your tools, knowing that the most used ones will strip? Gadget, you must be a lot harder on your tools than me. So the tools that I use on drones, I have pretty good luck with. I mean, I've got the tools that I use and recommend on my website, so you can certainly check that out. The tools I use out, the bigger tools that I use out in the barn, I just buy, name brands, and so far I've had pretty good luck. I don't know how you stripped a screwdriver. It must have been a really cheap screwdriver, I would guess. I have had drill bits. I've had drill bits. You know what I've had? I'll tell you what I've had. I bought a handheld electric screwdriver. It's not really a drill, just an electric driver. And it came with a bit set. And every single one of those bits has shattered when I tried to actually use it for anything aggressive. Just brittle as hell and cheap and garbage. So I would just say buy name brand stuff. And it costs more money, but there you go. There was a question in the Discord that I don't want to let pass. It's from Jason Aviator, who has a technical Crossfire question. Is it a known TBS problem that cell towers can cause 900 megahertz interference? Jason Aviator, in the USA, the cell network should be running on 868 megahertz, and the drones should be running on 915 megahertz. In Europe, it's the other way around. If you have the region on your Crossfire module set incorrectly, then you'll get interference from the cell towers and you'll get flyaways. If you had the region set correctly, it is still possible to get interference from cell towers. That is a known thing. So yeah, don't fly near cell towers. That's what I would say. Okay. Continuing with the super chats. Remy Tim, thank you for a $10 super chat. Been on analog since day one. Today, my DJI V2 goggles arrive in the mail and I begin the transition. What are the 2 to 3 most important things I should know as a newcomer to digital after 5 years of FPV? Good. It's a good question, Remy Tim. Remy Tim, the first thing I'm going to tell you to do is look up an FPV channel chart. Look up an FPV channel chart. Here's a good one. It's on Get FPV. And pay attention to the layout of the DJI channels. In fact, you could print this out and keep it with you if you like. Notice that the DJI channels go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just like the race band channels that most people use, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But then DJI goes 8, 6, 7, and race band goes 6, 7, 8. One of the most important things you can do to be courteous to other people when you're flying as a DJI pilot is don't be on their channel. Now, if you're flying with analog pilots, a common thing for them to do is when they're flying with a DJI pilot, they avoid race band 6. Because your goggles will always power up on channel 8 and then go to whatever channel you're actually on. So the analog pilots will typically just politely avoid race band 6. And then you can go to, whatever. The easiest thing to do is for you to be on channel 7, and then they cluster down at the bottom end on 1, 3, and 5, and then there's minimal interference between you guys. The next thing you can do is you can turn your output power down. If DJI is blasting 1200 milliwatts, it can cause interference even if you're managing your channels correctly. If you're flying with, 2 or 3 other people who know you really well and you guys have a good established rapport, then you could maybe be like, okay, guys, I'm going to go up to 1200. Tell me if you have any problems, and you could work it out. But if you're flying with a larger group and you want to be maximally polite, turn your goggles down to 500 or 200 milliwatts. You'll get reduced range, but that's just the thing. That's just kind of what you got to do. And turn yourself down to 25 milliwatts. Don't be on 50 milliwatts when you are flying with other people, because the 50 milliwatt channels are twice as large and will hit the other guys more aggressively. So those are some things you can do to try to get along better with other people. I bet that you were asking more about how to get the most out of your system. But I think that as a DJI pilot, being courteous to analog pilots and just knowing, because here's the thing, the analog pilots probably don't know how to deal with you. But you as the newcomer, if DJI can be said to be a newcomer these days, it certainly came second, maybe have a little bit more of an obligation to learn how to peacefully interact. The other thing to keep in mind is that as a DJI pilot, your goggles transmit. So if you stand next to an analog pilot, you will interfere with him, even though your quadcopter may be far, far away. You need to stand a minimum of 10 feet. And a little bit more is better, but minimum of 10 feet anytime your goggles are powered up. And that's another thing to keep in mind. Do the 1200 milliwatt hack. It's brilliant. You want it. It's no downside. Then enjoy. Yahir Kasaya, thank you for a $5 super chat. JB, thank you for all you do. You're a big help for the noobs. Thank you for the kind words, Yahir Kasaya. I have a FetTech flight controller with no OSD. Can I still do the DJI goggle hack? Yes. Maybe you mean you bought the new FetTech flight controller that doesn't have an analog OSD. You absolutely can do the DJI goggles without an OSD on your flight controller. So, yes, the answer to your question is 100% yes. Timbo Slice, thank you for a $10 super chat. I feel like my TX16S may be holding me back. You shut your mouth. That radio is amazing. It's not holding you back. You're holding you back. Oh, you know what's holding you back, Timbo Slice? Is your inability to come to grips with your own shortcomings and your desire to blame others. That's not that radio's fault. That TX16S it's working for you. It's fantastic. It's trying so hard. And you're coming on this live stream and you're going to blame it. Timbo Slice. How dare you? I'm sorry, Radio Master told me I wasn't allowed to say bad things about that radio, so I just had to. I may have taken it a little too far, Timbo. I'm sorry. Hold on, there's some spittle on my screen. Let's read the super chat. I feel like my TX16S may be holding me back. I'm a machinist by trade, so my hands struggle to meet full stick in some moves and have to readjust. Oh, as usual, I should have read the whole super chat before reacting. I'm just messing with you, man. I think when you say you're a machinist by trade, what you mean is that you don't have as much dexterity in your hands because you've been working with your hands on various things, or maybe you just have stiff fingers or thick fingers. But what you're saying is your hands struggle to meet the full stick in some moves, and you have to readjust. So if you feel like the radio is too big and you would like smaller radio, consider the is it the TX12? I think it's the TX12, yeah. So the TX12 is a similar radio from Radio Master that's a little smaller and may make it easier for you to get to full deflection. It's possible, if you have the AGO1 gimbals, it's possible to adjust the stick travel. Actually, that's not true. The TX16 can adjust the stick travel. They changed all the TX16S to have the adjustable gimbals, didn't they? Yeah, so if your gimbals have these 4 screw holes here, you can adjust the up-down travel. So you could reduce the stick travel to maybe match your fingers a little more. If that sounds like something you could do. You can't adjust the left-right, only the up-down. So it may still be an issue there. But if you feel that the radio is too big and there's too much travel for your fingers, then it may make sense for you to get a smaller radio. You can also shorten the sticks, which may help. Now, the stock sticks I don't think can go in anymore, but you could try to get some aftermarket sticks that are a little shorter. So those are some thoughts that I have, Timbo Slice. Thank you for the opportunity to do a little comedy bit about your question. I hope you were amused. Yeah, the specimen pinch sticks. That's what I'm going to suggest. I use these sticks. I think they're fantastic. These may be some of the lowest profile sticks available. So these are the specimen stick ends, and they're going to be just about the shortest sticks you can put on there, which may help you get to full deflection. Those are some things to think. The first thing I would tell you to do is adjust the up-down endpoint limits to be at a point that you can get to the full deflection. Don't forget you have to recalibrate the sticks after you do that, okay? Don't forget to do that. And see if that helps. And then maybe consider new stick ends. And then if that all doesn't work, maybe consider getting a smaller radio like the T12 or the Zorro. Glenn R., thank you for a $5 Australian super chat. Is there any point in adding an SD card to the DJI Air unit? Glenn R. Yeah, so Glenn, some people will record on the Air unit and not even run a GoPro. And they're just like, it's good enough, it's fine. That makes a lot of sense. Number one, you don't put a $300 to $500 camera on your drone and destroy it. Number two, it saves you a lot of weight. And you're just going to have a more nimble, agile quadcopter. Personally, I don't run the Air unit on any of my quads. If I'm in a situation where I'm just like, I don't feel like running a GoPro today, either because like I'm going to be working a new trick and I know I'm going to crash a lot and I'm just like, I don't want to risk breaking my camera, or maybe I just want to, have a lighter quadcopter today. I'll just run DVR and record the DVR, and the image quality in the DVR is plenty good enough to be like, hey guys, look at this cool trick I pulled. So the SD card in the Air unit, I mean, on the other hand, some people are like, what are you talking about? Who cares? We're going to run a GoPro. Yeah. Philly Style FPV, thank you for a $2 super chat. Wouldn't it be cool if you had an O3 Air unit early for review? That would be cool. I don't, but it would be cool. Did you see, Did you see this? Look at this. This is a screen grab I took this morning. Foxeer Aura 5-inch freestyle RTF drone. Look at the VTXs they have. Oh! This is the first time I have seen a reference to a bind and fly with a DJI O3 air unit in the wild. Obviously, we have no idea what the timing is, but Foxeer at least thinks that they're going to be selling a bind and fly with the O3 air unit in it. This is intriguing to me because I heard another rumor yesterday. Somebody on Facebook said, so take this with a giant grain of salt. But somebody on Facebook said, my friend who's an engineer at DJI said that they were going to cancel the O3 air unit. It might not even come out. They said it's being delayed to first quarter 2023, and it might be canceled entirely. And I was like, oh. And then I was like, oh, who cares? Who knows? But my official position on DJI is when they release it, then I'll believe it. So right now they say the O3 air unit is coming. Okay, sure. Yeah, I think that's like 45% true, but it's not 51% true. You know, when they release it, I'll believe it. But when I see this Foxeer product listing with the DJI O3 air unit, I mean, I don't think Foxeer would do that if they didn't think that DJI was going to be sending them O3 air units. So, maybe that makes it 47% likely instead of 45% likely. I don't know. Quad City Bay Area, thank you for a $2 super chat. HDZero analog looks promising. Yeah, the analog input on the HDZero goggles has some advanced deinterlacing and stuff that is pretty freaking cool. Did somebody post a video of it? Is that why you're saying that? Ryan Quellet would have done it if anybody. Yes, I saw this video. I thought so. I saw this video, and I haven't watched it yet. Let's take a look at this video from Ryan Quellet about the new HDZero. You say, well, who cares? You just take the HDZero goggle and you slap an analog module on the side. What's the big deal? Just lots of goggles can do that. Oh, no. They've got some advanced deinterlacing and whatever, upscaling that make it look really good. What do we got going on here? Let's listen. Let's listen to Ryan. Hang on, let me unmute the...
Pretty slick. I've slowed this down to quarter speed so you can see the shifting up and down of analog.
I have seen that.
And on right is HDZero with the deinterlacer. Keeps things nice and smooth. Now this is 1x speed, so you can't really see that shifting up and down sometimes, but if you slow it down you can see it. And keep that in mind as we watch the rest of this video. Another thing to point out is there are some flashes on kind of like sync loss. You'll see it right there. That's all getting worked out yet. Focus on edges of the picture. That's where, or things further off in the distance, and that's where you're going to be able to more easily see the difference in detail. Now I think this one shot here sums up everything. You've got jumping up and down, kind of blurry on the left.
I kind of do see it.
Smooth on the right.
It does look kind of stuttery on the left, like and smoother on the right.
The roof line is stair step.
Oh God! Oh God! Oh yeah! Wow! Look at this. Look at the roof line. Stair step there. I'm just repeating what Ryan said. No, I totally see it. Look how smooth it is. That is proper deinterlacing. That's incredible.
Left and nice and smooth on the right. So it's
wow.
Little details like that.
That's really something. That's really something.
You might not notice while you're flying, but once you know where they are, it's hard to unsee it, and you can see where the benefits of this deinterlacer is really helping improve analog image quality.
That's something.
I think the finer details have more contrast also. So I don't know if that was just a tuning option that Carl's doing, but with analog, it's a
Well, if anything, it's showing how much better the rapid fire is than the Sky 04X. The rapid fire is really solid, and the Sky 04X is flashing and stuff.
composite video, so the
Yeah.
luma and the chroma are merged together, and then you got to kind of dissect that and pull it apart in post when you're.
I want to see. Look at the difference in how I think this is moire artifacting. I think is what it's called. Look at the difference in the artifacting here. The side of the house has these slats, and the slats can't be resolved. The resolution of the image is too low to resolve the slats, but you get this interface between the sensor resolution and the slats. Notice that you're just literally getting more effective resolution on the right side than on the left because of the deinterlacing is being handled properly. You can literally see the individual slats here, whereas here it's just kind of like, what am I doing? Yeah, that's extraordinary.
Decoding it. So I think that's kind of a choice. That's why the one on the right is a little bit more punchy. Take
Interesting.
a look again at the jagged roof edge on the left, smooth on the right.
Uh-huh.
You can see like round objects are more round.
Interesting. Yeah. Wow. That's really something. Look at the lettering here. Yard waste only. It's like you just literally got more detail on the right side.
Angled objects are more clean
Wow.
looking.
It's something. Oh God. What a huge difference. Just look at the lines here. Look at the lines. It's just literally more detail. That's really, really impressive. Who knew? Well, I guess Carl knew.
You can see
License to drive, the deinterlacing, it's sub-millisecond latency. It's like microsecond latency. Somebody asked Carl that, and he said on Facebook, and he was like, yeah, it's microseconds. It's nothing.
things that are fine a little bit easier, like that chain.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, damn, HDZero. HDZero keeps they're gonna be the best at everything except range and penetration and pure resolution. They're going to be the best at latency. They're going to have the best analog upscaling. They're going to have the best goggles. Just pure range and penetration. They still are not the best. Mike Bergman says, I was told penetration isn't that important anyways. I assume you're talking about FPV. That's really cool. That's really cool. They are so good at finding. They're so good at. Here's the thing. The raw range and penetration of the HDZero system. I feel like if they could just flip a switch and make it better, they would have. They managed to get the Freestyle 1-watt VTX out there, which pushed the range. I know they struggled with heat dissipation and board size on the Freestyle VTX. In theory, maybe they're working on a higher power VTX, which of course would give more range and penetration. But it feels like their strategy is, okay, our range and penetration is what it is. And we can't beat DJI by playing their game. So we're going to beat DJI by doing everything else that people want 1,000 times better than them. We're going to do community connection with the community 1,000 times better. We're going to do responsiveness and communication 1,000 times better. We're going to do latency. We're going to do whoop boards. We're going to do a race receiver with both analog and HDMI. We're going to do everything they won't do so much better that it'll make up for the fact that we don't quite have the range and penetration. It's a very interesting theory. Except for long distance. Thank you for 13 FPV points out that for long distance over 13 kilometers, DJI stops at 13 kilometers and HDZero can keep going. So fair. But for people who aren't doing long range, who are doing typical sort of racing, freestyle, cruising, park flying, DJI is going to have more range and penetration. What's up, Ciati? Good to see you. Matt Thor. Oh, no. Go back a little more. Clockwork DG. Thank you for a $5 super chat. Joshua, do you know anything about RC land vehicles? Not really. Could FPV stack be wired in an RC vehicle controller? Can these stacks drive servos? Yeah, if you've got a land vehicle, I don't know why you want a flight controller. Yes, you could put FPV in a land vehicle. Many people have done that. What do you want a flight controller for on a land vehicle is my question. Are you trying to build an autonomous land vehicle? You could put an FPV stack, but I don't think that Betaflight has a ground vehicle mixer. iNav, I think, does. iNav can drive a ground vehicle, but why? Mike Mohar, thank you for a $10 super chat. How to fix continuous ESC beeping on Cinewhoop left side motors after getting sucked into a tree in angle mode. It throttled up before I could disarm. The ESC is beeping, Mike? Oh, yeah, well, sure, ArduPilot can do a ground-based vehicle. Absolutely. ArduPilot can do anything. Mike Molnar, so I'm going to assume that what you're saying is that just the left side motors are beeping. I'm struggling to imagine what would cause that. So what causes your motors to beep? When you first plug in, the ESC does its initialization tones. Do-do-do, do-do. After that, the only thing that would cause the motors to beep would be if the flight controller was telling them to beep using the D-shot command, but then it would beep all four motors. Or if the ESC went 10 minutes without seeing a motor signal, it would start doing the lost model beep. But you're saying it just keeps beeping. Like as soon as you plug in, Mike, it starts beeping the motors? I just can't think DTFPV guesses that it's related to turtle mode. Plausible, but I can't think what would cause just the left side to beep and not both sides. Wait, Mike Mohar. Mike, it keeps beeping after the controller's connected. Mike, does it beep before the controller's connected? When you plug in, does it go do-do-do-do-do and then stop until you turn the controller on? That's extremely relevant. Yes, correct. Okay, so Mike, it's not your ESC. It's something to do with your flight controller. Mike, I would go into the modes tab and look at what modes were activated. If it happens when you turn your controller on, my guess is that you've got a mode activated that's causing the beeping. That's where I would go with that. But why only the left side and not the right side? That I don't know. That's pretty weird. Matt Thor, thank you for a $5 super chat. Can you clarify what the SCL SDA are for GPS and why it needs 6 wires? The SCL SDA are for a compass. They're for the compass. Why does it need 6 wires? Technically, it doesn't. There is at least one GPS and compass out there that uses only the TX and RX wires. Both the GPS and the compass data comes over the TX and RX wires. That's just not usually the way it's done, though. Usually the compass uses the I2C interface, which is the SDA SCL wires, and the GPS uses the TX and the RX wires. It's just a convention. Jeremy Pierce Sunia asks, is it possible to record GPS coordinates on the DJI DVR? It is not. It's just not. The best workaround for that is to send the GPS coordinates back to the controller via telemetry and record. If you're running OpenTX or EdgeTX, the controller can record the telemetry to a file on the SD card. Another thing that people do is that if you lose your quad, the last OSD appears on screen, and when they've lost the quad, they'll take their goggles off and they'll put their phone and they'll take a picture of the coordinates. Secondary wants to know, can I remap the compass pads to a UART? Usually no. Usually no. The SDA SCL pads are tied to a certain pin on the microcontroller. You cannot arbitrarily remap them. In some cases, like it's somewhat common that UART 3 will use the same pins as the SDA SCL. So in some cases, perhaps you could remap them and it would work. But in general, I would say assume that you can't remap them. Anthony DiStefano, thank you for a $5 super chat. What makes an antenna a long-range antenna? Left-hand polarized. How do I know they work with DJI? So Anthony, the physical construction and design of the antenna is what makes it left or right-hand polarized. That's the short answer. The easiest way to demonstrate this is with a helical antenna. I'll give you a picture here so you 100% know what I'm talking about. So here's a helical antenna. It's a very, very simple form of circular polarized antenna. And the nice thing about a helical antenna is to make a left-hand polarized antenna, you spin the spiral one way. And to make a right-hand polarized antenna, you spin the spiral the other way. And it's very, very simple to understand. Now, there are other forms of circular polarized antennas that are less intuitive to the human brain, but that will still work the same way electrically. So the thing you need to know, Anthony, is that the antenna on the receiver has to match the antenna on the transmitter. As long as they match, left hand versus right hand doesn't matter. Left hand is not long range or anything like that. Left hand versus right hand, it is exactly the same. As long as they match, that's what matters the most. Abraham asks, the GPS data can be included in the DVR data file, the subtitle file. They're working on a way of writing the most recent GPS data to the internal flash memory for the purposes of reviewing after a crashed or lost quad. Abraham, that is correct. That stuff, as far as I know, is not available today. As far as I know today, even if you root the goggles, you still don't have a way that you can record the GPS data. I know that they're working on that, but it's not there yet. If I'm wrong about that, let me know. What I heard was that they are going to work on a way to record the whole Betaflight OSD and then overlay it on the video after the fact, if you so desire, which really excites me. I mean, I could record with the GoPro and put the Betaflight OSD on it. That's kind of cool. That would be kind of cool. Mindless FPV, thank you for a $5 super chat. People are saying Crossfire doesn't play nice with Avatar. Is that true? I don't know whether that's true or why that would be true. As far as I know, the Avatar doesn't transmit on 900 megahertz. Does it? I don't think it does. No other DJI quads do. So I don't know why Crossfire. Why are you using Crossfire with the Avatar anyway? I'm not sure I understand the question. Does the length of the antenna on the quad make it long range? Anthony, a higher gain antenna will be used for long range. Higher gain antennas are usually physically larger. So the physical design of the antenna is related to whether it's usable for long range or not. Yeah. The Island Life asks if I have announced the giveaway winner yet for the GoPro Hero 11 Mini. The Island Life, the cutoff date. I have not announced the winner, and see if you can tell me why. No one reads the terms and conditions. First person in the chat to tell me why I haven't announced the winner of the game. Now bear in mind, it usually takes me like a week to announce the winner. So like tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, I won't have any excuse. But today my excuse is that the cutoff for entries hasn't happened yet. Now I'm being salty at you because this deadline is going to come and go. And like 5 days later, I'll finally announce the winner. And people are always like, why haven't you announced the winner yet? Are you going to announce the winner? And I'm like, shut up. I haven't done it yet. I'm just busy. But I really have no excuse. Okay? I have no excuse. It's just that I'm like, I don't know if I can make it. I don't know. I don't want to do it right now. So like the whole time people are asking me, I feel guilty that I haven't done it yet. And then I feel annoyed that you made me feel guilty. But the one time you ask me and the deadline hasn't passed yet, oh, it feels so good. Because I don't have to feel guilty that I haven't done it yet. Instead, I can be like, how dare you not read? Did you? Of course I haven't done it. The deadline hasn't passed yet. Oh, people should really read the terms and conditions. And I don't usually get to do that. Like when you asked me that, I was like, has the deadline passed yet? Fuck. And then thankfully it hadn't, so I got to like be all self-righteous. No, I haven't done it yet. 509 Drone, thank you for a $5 super chat. Just wanted to show some support. Your videos have saved me countless times. Appreciate all you do. Thank you for the donation. Thank you for the kind words. 509 Drone. David Santonia. Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you for $2 Canadian. Do you have a question, David? I don't think he did. Just thank you for the donation. And Char, thank you for $2 super chat. That is it. We're caught up on super chats. Wow, that's amazing. We are going to take some more questions from the plebs, the people in the regular chat. As soon as I take a second to plug my pluggables. Can I do that for you? FPVknowitall.com. It's my website, FPVknowitall.com. I can spam the chat because it's my channel and no one can time me out. FPVknowitall.com is my website, home of the ultimate FPV shopping list. A list of parts. Want to know what I recommend? This is what I recommend. It's not the only good parts in FPV, but it's stuff you can count on. Recommended parts in many categories. Today, let's look at must-have tools. We had a question earlier about tools. These are some recommended tools. These are literally tools that I use. I own almost all of these. Don't own the Fluke 115. It's too expensive. Can't afford it. I own almost all of these tools and have used them. And if you want to know what I like and recommend, we got to get the OmniFixo on there. Every time I look at this page, I think of another thing I want to do. Add OmniFixo. Okay. If anybody wants a job, I'm serious. Hang on. Pause the plug. If anybody wants a job working on my website, I need a person to look at the website regularly and then be like, oh, you know what? there's a new one of those. Oh, there's this new flight controller that just came out that you really ought to look at. Or this product's out of date. It's been discontinued. You got to take it off. I just, like, literally every time I look at my website, I'm like, oh, hang on. There's a new product I just reviewed. It's not on there. I got to add it. But here's the thing. I don't look at the website every day. And I really just wish there was a person who would do that for me. And I can't find that person. I can't find that person. Like, literally, I look at the text and I'm like, oh, this text isn't right. That text is out of date. That text has changed. They've updated that product. It would have to be somebody who is really up on, like, all things FPV. Now, Blunty doesn't want to do it. Blunty would be good at it. He doesn't want to do it. Blunty does, he needs too much time to play Russian fishing simulator. I don't know how many hours a week it would make sense for you to spend doing this, but literally I would hire somebody to do this if they convinced me that could do a good job at it. And like what I would do is I would just say, I need you to find me 5 edits a week or 10 edits a week. And your job is just to go through the website and find edits. Little things. Anyway, if you think you'd be right for that, I don't even know how I would begin to interview you and find out if you're a good choice. But I really I'm serious. If I could snap my fingers and make that happen, I would. Anyway, the thing is, you can't just hire a virtual assistant for $18 an hour off of Upwork or something, because they just don't know jack shit about FPV. And you have to know and be in contact with the FPV world. Anyway, that's my website. My other website is searchfpv.com, a multi-store FPV search engine. Today we're going to search for Speedy Bee. And it'll just search all these stores and show you what's in stock and how much it costs. And you can go to the store and find what you're looking for. You can even search for in stock only. It parses the page. So, searchfpv.com. Check it out. Check it out. Okay, those are my plugs. All right, my Patreon. Yeah, I'll plug that later. It's just got to be somebody who it's got to be somebody who's willing to spend a few hours a week at least, just like looking at the website. And it's got to be somebody who already spends hours a week keeping up with the FPV, like everything FPV. You know, keeping up with new products, and they just have their finger on the pulse. I don't know. I don't know who that person is. Like, it's like I've got my fingers somewhat on the pulse, but I'm actually too busy making videos to actually know about every new product, and then I don't look at the website as often as I could. Anyway, enough bitching about that. Let's continue. We're going to take some questions from the Ciati's too busy. Cozy FPV. So Ciati, I have managed to rope Ciati into working on the Cinewhoop page and a couple and the Tiny Whoop page, and he manages those pages and keeps them up to date. He has a life and a job, and he's too busy to manage the whole site. But more fundamentally, I think he would say that he isn't as tuned in on the 5-inch side. So frankly, I think the best scenario is going to be that I'm going to end up with several people, one person who's in charge of the 5-inch freestyle, one person who's in charge of 5-inch racing, and so on and so on. And I'd be fine with that. I'd be fine with that because I think the website, the more up to date the website is, the more valuable it is to people. And I feel like, yeah, I feel like that I really want it to be more valuable. The VTX, Ethan W's VTX from way back when is the Beta FPV MO2. He asked about the SA and the, what was the other one? The SX pad? Let's look. SA and SW. So SW, like all of these pads here, 5-volt ground, VTX cam, all of these pads are pretty standard for all video transmitters. SA is smart audio, and SW, I'm going to guess. That's not standard, but I'm going to guess. I'm going to guess that SW is switch. That there is an external switch you can hook it up to that powers it on and off. Let's look, though. I don't know what that is. We have to read the documentation. Well, SW is SW. Okay, so FU, that's useless. I can also read. I can effing read SW. Thanks, that's useless. In this wiring diagram here, they do not show SW being hooked up. Cool. That's useless. We're going to keep scrolling and see if they do. No, they don't document it. Thanks, Beta FPV. Appreciate that. You've got this SW pad. It doesn't do anything, and it's not documented. Cool. Well, no one knows, and no one can know. I'm looking at the text to see if it says anything. All right, let's see if there's a manual. Let's see if this review from Multi-Rotor Guide has any information about the SW pad. So I'm going to look at the features and see if there's any features here that would give us a clue. No. Oh, we're talking about the solder pads. No. No. Semi-flexible UFL. That's useless. Nope. 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 Okay. And you just copied the screens from Beta FPV. Measuring the output power. Cool. Okay, this is very thorough data. Looking for info about the SW. Oh, I know what it is. I know what it is. SW is a solder pad that emulates the physical switch on the board. So you can wire an external switch up to the SW pad, and then you can press the switch without having to get in there with a little poker. That's what it is. Yep, guarantee it. You would solder the switch. You would solder one side of the switch to SW and the other side to ground. And then by actuating that switch, you wouldn't have to get in there and poke that little pad. It would be nice if they had documented that anywhere. But that's what keeps me in business. Yep, that's what it is, for surely. And that's why it is physically right near the switch, because it probably shares the solder pad with it. That's clever. That's clever. That's smart. See, that's the thing, Beta FPV. You do something, and it's really clever. Beta FPV does smart things. But then they just let themselves down with bad documentation or poor build quality. Oh, sorry. Wrong button. Eddie Lancaster asks, thank you for a $10 super chat, Eddie. Can you recommend a good 6S 5-inch cinematic drone that's ready to fly and be shipped to the USA and arrive in about a week or so? I ordered Johnny's from Get FPV, but it's back ordered. Eddie, I would. So here's what I would say. The first thing I would say, Eddie, is this whole I need a 5-inch cinematic drone. What does a cinematic drone mean to you? Like, just buy a 5-inch bind and fly and put your GoPro on it and turn the rates down and woo, it's cinematic. Like, if you said, I'm going mountain cruising, well, then you probably want like a 6-inch or a 7-inch or a 10-inch. You probably don't want a 5-inch. But if you stipulated that you want a 5-inch, I'm not sure there's that much difference between a cinematic 5-inch and any old 5-inch bind and fly that you buy. The cinematic part is going to be turning the rates down and flying smoothly, how you choose to fly it. Now, that doesn't mean that Johnny FPV's drone is exactly like Mr. Seal's drone, is exactly like Min Chan Kim's drone. Obviously, there are differences, and there are some things about Johnny's drone that make it more suited to the type of flying he does than like Ross Freestyle. But if you are in a hurry and you need a drone for a cinematic shoot, and you've decided you want it to be a 5-inch, just buy any half-decent 5-inch freestyle drone. Buy the Evoke, get the Evoke D so that it's a dead cat style and the props aren't in view. And just, there you go. You're good. You're just, boom, it's cinematic. That's what I would say. So I don't know if that's the answer you were looking for. Like, get the Get Bar C Mark V. It's really, really solid. Does it come in a dead cat style? Well, I'm looking at my Get Bar C on the wall. I'll bet the props wouldn't be in view of the GoPro. Get the Evoke with the dead cat style if you can find it in stock. Any 5-inch is going to be fine, I think. In a pinch, any 5-inch is going to be fine in a pinch. That's what I would say. What about Rotorite? Rotorite got anything in stock? Do they have a cinematic 5-inch? What does that even mean? Nah. Thank you, Swift69, for the $5 super chat. Appreciate that donation. And thank you, Jose. Thank you, Jose Diaz, for a $5 super chat. Have you tried your Evoke on 4.3 of the iFlight preset yet? It flies so good. I have not. Jose, I was just looking at my iFlight Evoke. It's on the wall behind me. I was just looking at it and thinking, I haven't flown that thing in a while. It flew so good on 4.2. My God, it's probably going to fly better on 4.3. Oh, let's see here. 2507 motors. 2507 Conquest FPV. 2507 makes sense on a 6-inch prop. Yeah. Makes sense on a 6-inch prop. Not on a 5-inch prop. Martin's Crypto asks, is there any way to measure the power of an analog VTX without using special tools? Martin's Crypto, the short version of that answer is no, there is not. There are some things people do to try to measure. The problem is that when you're up in the 5 gigahertz range, electricity behaves extremely weirdly when you're up in microwave frequencies and higher. And simply, you have to take into account the reactance of the circuit. You can't just grab a resistor and like build a voltage divider. There are things people have done to try to build ways to measure power of microwave signals on a budget, but nothing that's really sort of approachable or accessible to just like a person who, like an FPV enthusiast. It's difficult stuff. It's ham radio stuff. Your best bet if you want to measure RF power is the Immersion RC RF power meter. Costs about $100. That's a lot of money for a toy, but for an RF power meter, that is incredibly affordable, and it is fairly accurate at measuring power. Like, within a dB. So some people who have cross-tested it against an expensive tool have found it to be, roughly within a dB, which is pretty. It's not good for the lab grade tool, but pretty good for something that costs $100. Mike Bergman, I agree. The FPV Cycle Imperial motors are fantastic on a 6-inch. Here, let's talk about motors. So I am going to be building more of my JB Perfect Freestyle build. I have finally just smashed the shit out of broken or worn out the ones that I built. And yesterday, the final straw was that I was flying. There was some friends of the family had come over. They'd never seen a quadcopter fly before, so I was ripping it around the yard, showing off as you do. And I hit a tree and I crashed, as you do. And I didn't want to walk over and pick it up because that's not cool. So I turtle moded and I flew it back, and it had a broken prop. And I will say, 3 of my 4 FPV Cycle Imperials have noticeably more well-done windings than before. And I thought, oh, crap, I smoked these motors. I'm such a dumbass. Well, it turns out, kudos to FPV Cycle, all of the motors are fine. I haven't flown it yet. They all spin perfectly on the bench, though. They got a little toasty, but they did not actually burn through the enamel. I wonder if that's one advantage of solid core wires, is you have a thicker wire with sort of more enamel than a thinner wire. I don't know if that's true. I wonder, though. But I got to thinking. Hang on. I got to thinking. I'm gonna build I think I'm gonna build three more of these quads, and I got to thinking about this video from Chris Rosser. He tested all these motors. This was a fantastic choice of which motors to test, by the way. The FPV Cycle 25mm. A very controversial, because Chris Rosser says 25mm motors unnecessary for 5-inch props. Overkill. Good for 6-inch props. But a very popular 5-inch motor. Of course, the Zing 2207 and 2208. Some RC and power motors. And, of course, the Emax Eco, the budget superstar. And I went back and I looked at this test. And if you haven't watched this whole video, you 1,000%... Oh, no, I didn't want to go to Reddit. You 1,000% should. I'm going to put a link. I'm going to put a link in there. And looking at the thrust results, the FPV Cycle motor, it made good thrust, but so did several other motors. And it weighs significantly more, right? Whereas if you look at this motor, the GTS V3 2107, this motor is significantly higher kV. It's about 100 more kV. Still made pretty good thrust, and is 8 grams lighter. And I went on to look at the responsiveness chart. And we found that the motors are not there's not a substantial difference in responsiveness between the motors. And then he goes on to say, where does he say it? Low throttle control marketing BS. One of the claims about the 25mm motors is that they have a better throttle curve. They have more low throttle resolution. And he shows here, this is the thrust versus RPM curve, that they all basically have an identical shape of thrust versus RPM curve. Some make a little more thrust, some make a little less, but there's no significant, a motor that had better resolution in the low throttle might have a curve that goes zoop, whoop, like an expo curve. They all basically have the same curve. And I looked at this video and I thought, I like the Imperial motors, but I also like a lighter weight quad. And I'm paying a penalty of 7 to 8 grams per motor to run those Imperials. That's huge. Now, the Imperials didn't used to be 40 grams. They used to be, I don't remember the number. Was it 34? They used to be not much heavier than a 2207 or a 2306. But they've been slowly redesigned over the years, months, years. And they've slowly crept up in weight to the point where they are the same weight as the Zing 25 millimeter motor, a similar weight to a 2208 motor. And I went, okay, I think this is not the motor for my next build. I think that I believe Chris Rosser. Now, I've flown those 25 millimeter motors. And when I reviewed them, I thought, and I said in the review, I think I noticed a difference in the responsiveness, in the low throttle control. I have come to believe that probably was a mistake. That what I was experiencing was that it's a lower kV motor, for example. And so it makes less thrust, and so it has more control and resolution throughout the entire throttle curve, perhaps. I don't know. But here's what kind of person I am. And you may not be this kind of person, and if you're not, then you're about to laugh and say I'm an idiot. If I fly a motor and think that I feel something about that motor, and Chris Rosser comes along and says, I did bench tests, it's not true, I'm going to be more likely to go, I guess it was placebo, than to say, well, you're wrong, you engineer with your bench testing, you don't know. I'm more likely to just believe him that I'm going to pick a motor based on bench results. That's the kind of person I am. And so I went shopping for motors. And the first thing I did was I was like, I want to try the Wasp Major. The Wasp Major is a very interesting motor. Very interesting motor. First of all, RC & Power is a fantastic manufacturer. They make great motors. The Wasp Major looks amazing. Jesus. Look at that beautiful motor. It's $23, which is a little bit premium, but it's also a very unusual size. I was like, okay, we'll give this as a 22.6 by 6.5. I was like, okay, I'll give this a try. And I tried to buy them, and like, Pyrodrone had like 7 of them in stock. Get FPV had like 4 of them in stock or something. Nobody had them in stock, and I was like, oh, okay. Well, I guess I'm not buying this motor. I'm not buying a motor that no one has in stock. I don't think it's that good. You know where I looked at the GTS V2107. Very promising motor, but the 2107 size, even though the GEP-RC Mark V flies great with these motors, I just couldn't bring myself to buy a 2107 motor. Like, it just, it's not that much lighter. And also the color scheme didn't really match my quad. You know what I ended up with? Guess what I ended up with? Guess what I ended up with? Yup. 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 The Zing 2. The frickin' Zing 2 2207. Here's the final straw. Look, here's something you can do on race day quads if you don't know this. Just put in 99999 as your quantity and hit add to cart, and it'll show you how many are left in stock. They had 40 left in stock last night. I bought like 12 of them. And I was like, okay. This motor, if you look at this chart, the Zing 2 2207 very respectable numbers. Like, completely respectable numbers. Completely respectable weight. $21. And in stock everywhere. I was like, forget about it. That's my motor for this next 3 builds. I really wanted to try something fancy. Something different. I was really tempted by this 2.2 grams per watt efficiency on the Wasp, even though it only made 1,500 grams of thrust. 33 grams of weight, 2.2 grams per watt efficiency. Incredible. Great efficiency. Yeah. Just ended up with a boring old Zing. And I'm going to save myself 40.8 grams for the, 39.5 grams for the FPV cycle, down to 33.7 grams for the Zing 2. That is just about 6 grams per motor. I'm going to save myself 25 grams. There you go. And I'm so freaking... it's like, what do you want to eat for dinner? And you're like, Wendy's? Can we just go to Wendy's? Wendy's makes a great hamburger. There you go. All right, so that's my update on motors. I don't know. I just am no longer convinced. When the FPV cycle motor was 36-ish grams or whatever it was way back when, I was like, wow, a 25 millimeter motor for 36 grams, that seems like a good deal. Lots more torque, lots more volume, not too much more weight. Let's do it. And now that they're 40-ish grams, I just don't, I think for 5-inch, it's just not for me. It hurts. It's like breaking up with your girlfriend. I still love you. You've gotten too fat for me. Oh, I guess that's what I'm saying. Okay, continuing. Wendy's makes a good hamburger. Death Dezine. Of all of the sort of drive-through fast food places. Okay, I'm not talking about Five Guys. And I know you're going to be like, what about frickin' In-N-Out? Okay, so first of all, we don't have In-N-Out on the East Coast, but also screw In-N-Out. Wendy's makes a solid burger. I'm sorry. They do. I'm not sorry. Whoa, it's Blunty's got something for me. Thank you, Blunty. We haven't talked about this. Look at this. We got a new design for prop mounting. The hell is this? Okay, it's an 1806 motor. 1806. Interesting. 1806 motor with a 1.5 millimeter motor shaft for the props. And it has a 6x6 propeller mount spacing that works with the Nazgul 5030. What does it do? What is it? Why is it better than T-mount? Why is it better than normal T-mount? Is it just a heavier shaft so it's more durable? Tell me. Blunty. Why has iFlight done this? Why are they not using the standard T-mount? Why is this better? Because it's still a 1.5 millimeter shaft. What size is the actual motor shaft? 1.5 millimeter. So it's still going to... Yeesh. Wait a minute. Oh, I see why you shared this with me, Blunty. Blunty didn't share this with me because he thinks it's cool and innovative. He thinks it's more bullshit more motor bullshit where people try to make stuff different for the sake of marketing. I see why you shared it, Blunty. Blunty said, you know my take. I see. I misinterpreted. So we've changed the mounting pattern so that this motor only works with this one prop. To what end? To what benefit? Why is it better? First of all, I'm not buying any motor that locks me into a single prop. Sorry. Even Kebab's M3 shaft, they have adapters to work with standard props. 661 FPV says, is that not just a regular T-mount? I don't know. Why do they have this warning? They have a unique 6x6 propeller mount spacing. I mean, we could just measure a T-mount prop and see The other thing is that this is a chonky motor for a 1.5 millimeter shaft. Yeah, Siati, I'm with you. So a 1.5 millimeter shaft is like on a 1404 motor, 15.0. You know, once you get above even a 2004 motor, it bends the shit out of a 1.5 millimeter shaft really quickly. 1806 that feels like a big motor to be on a 1.5 millimeter shaft. I'm not just talking about the prop shaft, which of course is just the part that sticks out. It says here they have 1.5 millimeter titanium alloy shaft. That suggests that the actual motor shaft is 1.5 millimeters. Feels like that's going to bend real damn quick. Yeah, Siati agrees. 2004 motors, 1505 motors, just really beat the shit out of a 1.5 millimeter shaft. It's so much weight in the motor that the shaft bends or breaks really easily. Now, Siati says it looks like down below the bell it's 3 millimeters. Is that what you're saying right here? You're looking right here, aren't you? That would be great. When I looked at the motor specs, it just says 1.5 millimeter shaft. I agree, Cole Powers. That's pretty weird. Cole Powers says, I don't think the internal shaft is 1.5 millimeter. That wouldn't make sense. I agree. That would be extremely weird to put this heavy of a motor on a 1.5 millimeter internal shaft. Maybe iFlight is smarter than we are. Probably. Siati, I think you're looking right here at this snap ring and the bottom of the shaft here and the bearing, and you're saying that's a 3 millimeter. That would make a lot more sense and would significantly improve the durability of the motor. The bearing says, oh, look at the bearing. Of course. Look at the bearing dimensions. Where are the bearings? 7x7x3 bearings. Of course. If it's got a 7x7x3 bearing, then the internal shaft is 3 millimeters. Thank you. That's a great trick. Yes, that's way better. Okay, I take back my criticism of the motor shaft. 1.5 millimeter is just this part that sticks up and engages with the prop. That has very little to do with the durability, although it is somewhat related. However, the 3 millimeter through shaft is extremely good. That's great. Why the proprietary prop mounting, I have no effing idea. Siati says it's still going to rip the bell right off the shaft. Siati, you think the weak spot is going to be where the shaft is pressed into the bell. So usually on these motors, folks, my understanding is that there's a press fit between the internal shaft and the bell, and it's got some kind of adhesive to hold it on. You think it's going to rip right off, though, Siati? Well, I guess time will tell. Time will tell. Exciting. Interesting motor. Get a couple more super chats. We're coming to the end of the stream. It's about 15 minutes to the end of the stream. Siati is going to be streaming, and you can ask him for more information about those motors. Siati, thank you for noticing that that's a 3 millimeter shaft, and whoever it was, Meat City, for pointing out that the bearing was 3 millimeter, and Spikester also pointed it out. That's a good deal. Raven 187, thank you for $2 Australian. I sent you an email with my job application. Thank you, Raven. Jazzfly FPV, thank you for 5 SGD. I want to build a custom GEP-RC Smart 3.5, but I want to use a 1504.5 3950 kV Brother Hobby motors on a Forest LiPo. Is this ideal for the 3.5-inch props build? The Smart 3.5 uses 1404s, doesn't it? The factory Smart 3.5 uses 1404s, I believe, if my memory is correct. Let's just double check that, rather than spouting off and getting it wrong. Yeah, 1404, 3850 kV. You're going to be using a 1504.5, 3950 kV. You're in the right ballpark for the kV, and you've made the motors just a little bigger. I think the 1404s on the Smart 3.5 are a little small. I think they're trying to get into that sub 250 gram category, and I feel like 1404s on a 3.5 inch, they're fine, but I feel like you're going to be okay on a 1504.5. I don't think you're crazy outside the ballpark. I would ask Siati if he's still here in the chat and wants to weigh in. Actually, Siati, hold that answer and answer that question on your stream, and hopefully, Jazzfly FPV will come around. If he has any specific comments about the Brother Hobby 1504.5 motor, I feel like as a size, 1504.5 is going to be okay on that build. Alexander Ahorn, thank you for $2 Canadian. What 5.8 gig Omni do you suggest for the drone versus the goggles? Assuming you're talking about analog, my favorite 5.8 antenna is the Lumineer Axie V1. The Xylo Axie is only $10. Oh, I'm going to sneeze. The Xylo Axie, it used to be the 20. This is the exact same antenna that they used to sell for $20. Then they came out with the Axie V2, and they knocked the original design. They changed it to a blue color, and they knocked it down to $10. This is a fantastic antenna for $10. This is my favorite cheapish antenna. So that's what I would recommend to you, Alexander Acorn. Timbo Slice, thank you for a $5 super chat. More X-Class content, please. I friggin' love those things. Timbo, X-Class is so gosh darn expensive. And every time I used to have that X-Class bird, I sold it because every time I would fly it like 3 times a year. I would never fly it for my own enjoyment because it was so expensive. I was nervous to put it in the dang air, and I would fly it like 3 times a year at an exhibition and then never again. It's so thrilling but so expensive. One Pack Jack, thank you for a $10 super chat. Jack's paying me to not start doing comedy. Well, I don't know about start, Jack. I already do comedy, son. I'm a funny SOB. Anyway. Siati says the cap will pop off that blue Axie super easy. That is the weak spot. I mean, I don't pop the cap off of all of them, but yes, that is a weak spot. You're not wrong. Genius Pig, I appreciate you asking your question politely and repeating it not too often. I have seen it go by a couple times when I'm in the middle of talking to somebody else and missed it. So now I'm going to answer it. I bought the Hoda S6 and I am noticing a cricket-like noise when it's powered on, but not charging. Did you have that experience? I did not. Mine didn't make that noise. It's probably an inductor whining. It may not mean anything, although it's a little annoying if you have to live with it. But I didn't. Of course, a sample size of 1, so. But I didn't. No, I didn't have that experience. Marcel Off-Axis FPV, thank you for $5 Canadian. Easiest way to know what antenna is better for long range. The true RC difference is singularity versus OCP versus matchstick. Marcel, the best way to know what antenna is best for long range is to talk to other long range pilots who have tested antennas. What you're probably going to want to do is have a good quality Omni antenna on the drone or aircraft, and a medium to high gain antenna on your goggles, which you keep pointed at the drone. So I just look at what long range pilots use. I can also look at the specs for the antenna and try to figure out what the difference is. So for an antenna on an aircraft, you typically want as low a gain as possible because the aircraft, you don't want it to be dependent on the orientation of the aircraft. If you have a wing that you know is pretty much always going to be flat and level, you could go for a slightly higher gain antenna. But in general, you want an omni antenna, a low gain antenna, like a 2 dB omni antenna, so you have a spherical coverage pattern. The OCP is a new everyday omni antenna. Okay, well, for long range, I don't want an everyday cheap omni antenna. For long range, I don't know. What does that mean? Don't care. I want a high performance antenna so I don't lose my bird. Is it a good antenna? Maybe it's fine. I heard you say it was an everyday antenna. Now, if I'm flying long range, it's not an everyday. So I might pass on that. Maybe it's a fine antenna. If somebody out there who flies long range says, nah, it's fine, it's good, go for it, maybe I would buy it. Singularity. Most advanced antenna. Well, I like the sound of that. We pushed miniaturization and performance. Singularity, maybe that's a good antenna. Look, 2 dB a gain. Fantastic. A very circular coverage pattern. Excellent. Cross-polar rejection. Radiation efficiency, very high. All of these are good signs. What about the OCP? What's it got? Gain 1.6. That's even more circular. Wow. Maybe I want the OCP after all. Cross-polar rejection, -10 to -20 dB, -15. That's better cross-polar rejection. That's a good sign. You want good multipath rejection for long-range flying. That might steer me toward this one. 98% versus 99% efficient. That's same as makes no difference. Anyway. I would just look at what other long-range pilots are flying and think about, look at the coverage pattern. I would want a gain of less than 2 dB. 2 dB or less. Good axial ratio, good cross-polar rejection, especially for long range. And I probably would spend a little more money because long range has such high stakes. It's Not Sam says, my experience is the OCP line is just as good as the Singularity line, but cheaper. Lots of long-range pilots fly the Singularity, says Eirik Toft, including Falcon Rat and himself. There you go, see? Clement Wong, thank you for a $2 super chat. Cameron Robichaux, thank you for a $2 super chat as well. Thank you, guys, for your donation. Chris asks, is there a good rule of thumb for motor RPM loaded versus unloaded? No, Chris, because the load will depend on the prop, okay? A larger, higher pitch prop will load the motor more, and the RPM reduction will depend on the torque of the motor, which is the stator size. So we've got the prop size and diameter, the prop size and pitch loading the motor down. We've got the motor torque spinning the motor up. And there is no rule of thumb for those things. A smaller motor with a larger, higher pitch prop will be loaded down more than a larger motor with a smaller prop. There's no rule of thumb that I can really give you. All we can say is that the loaded motor RPM will be lower than the unloaded RPM, which of course that's true. We got about 2 minutes left in the stream, and then Aaron Ciotti is going to be taking over on his channel. There is a link. He's going to be posting it. Cameron Robichaux, and thank you for another $5. Appreciate that. We're going to be finishing up here. Thank you guys for hanging with me for the last couple hours while I spout off on various and sundry. I'll see you tomorrow for the FPV news at 6 p.m. And Clement Wong, thank you for a $2 super chat. Can I do a dual DJI camera setup with a switch? No, you can't. In theory, it is possible to build a camera switcher for the DJI cameras. In practice, no one that I know has done it, and it certainly is not a commercial product. I do know at least one organization that was working on it. I don't know if they achieved it. I'm sure they're not the only one in the world who was thinking about building a DJI camera switcher. But in short, no, there's no DJI camera switcher. There are a lot of technical hurdles. Cameron says, I'm shocked you got my name right. Yes. Do you think Part 107 will substantially change with the new FAA regulations? I don't see any reason why remote ID would significantly change Part 107. I do know that the FAA Reauthorization Act is up again in 2023, and the FPV Freedom Coalition is working to get better protection for FPV into the Reauthorization Act. So 2023 will in some ways be a watershed year. We won't see the results of that for longer still. But every time there's an FAA Reauthorization Act, there's an opportunity to sort of go back to that well and try and influence the regulations. And FPV Freedom Coalition is actively working on that, and that's a good thing. That is going to do it for tonight, folks. Thank you so much for coming out. Siati, have a great stream, and I will see you guys in the next one.